As I see it, the debate on women's rights is much too important to be left to social media alone. I'm a father with 2 young daughters, so this issue is very close to my heart. And I think it's the job of Parliament to make sure that laws are clear and fair. It's our duty. And we have an opportunity to protect children, to uphold women's rights, and to bring about the beginning of the end, I hope, for the shouting matches and hyperbole, replacing them with some calm and common sense on the issues that have been raised by these petitions. I know not everyone will agree with what I'm about to say, but that's the point of Parliament. We should all be able to air our views freely and fairly, and the government should act accordingly. Today's debate on one petition is about a very specific point of law, but the point is widely felt. The legal definition of sex matters in so many areas of life: schools, sports, health, crime, and prisons. I want the rules of our society to be safe, clear, and fair, for my daughters as much for women and girls across Britain. A policy exchange report, Asleep at the Wheel, found that 60% of schools are not maintaining single-sex sports. 19% of schools are not maintaining single-sex changing rooms, and 28% are not maintaining single-sex lavatories. Such provision at school, I believe, is absolutely essential for the privacy, dignity and safety of pupils. And a further policy exchange report, Mrs Cummings, Gender Identity and the NHS, found that North Bristol NHS Trust was not willing to guarantee same-sex intimate care or same-sex accommodation to patients, stating, and I quote, that these arrangements meet all national standards relating to single-sex accommodation. And this is despite the Trust's biggest hospital recording up to 30 alleged instances of sexual assault against females having taken place on hospital property. So the way I see it today is we need to ask ourselves 3 questions. Do we want women and girls to be forced or shamed into sharing loos, changing rooms and dormitories with biological men and boys? Do we want women and girls to lose female-only sports, even though we know that the physical advantages of being male relate to sex, not gender identity? And do we want some of the most vulnerable people in our society, children in care homes, patients in hospitals, women in homeless shelters, rape crisis centres, or indeed prisons, to have the dignity, safety and privacy of single-sex spaces stolen away from them? I say no. But that's what happens if the law is ambiguous about the meaning of sex. And I don't want schools, doctors, hospitals or the police to have to lie to me or to other parents because they've been bullied or shamed into thinking that it's bigoted to use clear words. So I just want to make a plea for a return to everyday common sense language. And to be clear, this does not take away from the rights of anyone to live as they choose. The words for people who are born male are men and boys. The words for people who are born female are women and girls. Biologically, males cannot become females and vice versa. And this is true, whatever pronouns that people might want to use for themselves, of course, whether they wish to take hormones or have surgery. These are plain biological facts, but they have become controversial. Now, many people tell me that you have to be brave to say them. That's wrong. Everyone should be able to. But if it is anyone's job, then I believe it is our job, here in this place, to harness this place, to speak out and speak the truth, to stand up, I believe, for everyone's rights. And that means using clear, accurate, unambiguous words, both in our speeches today and in the law. Surely no one here wants to take away from anyone's ability to express themselves as they wish, identify as they feel is right, to live their own life. I don't. But rights come with responsibilities. And that's why we must be clear about what it is we are legislating for. And that brings me to the specifics of the proposed amendment in the petition. It concerns the Equality Act, which is the law about discrimination, sex discrimination, age discrimination, religious discrimination, and so on. And this amendment is primarily about one strand: sex discrimination. The petition asks the government to clarify in law, for the avoidance of doubt, that the term sex discrimination in the Equality Act means what it always has: discrimination because of the sex someone is, male or female. Having a gender recognition certificate doesn't make biological males female or biological females male. So it does not make a difference when it comes to sex discrimination. That's it. We're just making sure that the Equality Act aligns with reality. This is not a new principle. It's not about what's said on social media or on the so-called culture wars. It was in 1597, Mrs. Cummings, that Thomas Cook, the Attorney General, told Parliament that the law cannot do the impossible. The example he used was that the law cannot make a man into a woman. I believe he was right then, and he is right now. Let me be crystal clear. To agree this amendment does not take away any rights from anyone else. There is already a separate protected characteristic of gender reassignment. Someone covered by this already has the protection, rightly, against losing their job or being refused a tenancy or service because of being transgender. I remember when my first daughter was born. We didn't find out before, so there was a 50-50 chance. It is basic biology. We all know what the two sexes are. We all know which sex we are and what sex our children are. I will.
Just very, very briefly. Does he accept that intersex people exist?
I'm sure that she will deal with that in her comments, and that she will be staying for this whole debate. I want to conclude my remarks so that other members can have their say, and I want to talk about the fact that we all know which sex we are, what sex our children are, and we know that the two sexes, male and female, are fundamental to our very existence. So much has changed for women and girls from 400 years ago with Thomas Cook, and even 50 years ago, when sex discrimination was first made unlawful in the United Kingdom. And so I simply ask the Minister, Mrs. Cummings, to make sure that the law does not try and do the impossible. It is up to us. Let's not go backwards. And I urge the government to act now to protect the lives of women and girls.